Okay, people, so we're going to start working on this clock. And the first thing I'm going to talk to you about doing is simply putting, making a round clock face that has numbers that are rotated on it, choosing the fonts and placing them at the right location. And then after that, once we get the sort of basic clock outline figured out, then we'll worry about putting in either a laser etch design like this cougar here, or maybe we'll do an image on top of it, or maybe we'll do some three-dimensional rendering where we layer it with multiple pieces of wood. But we're all going to start basically by placing numbers on a disc with a hole for the mechanism. Okay, so we'll get started on that. And to do that, again, I'm going to choose, in this case, Librecad. And the reason I'm choosing Librecad is because it has so many more fonts, okay? And because we have so many more fonts, we'll have a lot more choices about how it can etch it. Notice this is actually not a fill, okay? It's not traced repetitively, but this is done with lines, all right? So let me just elaborate on that a little bit. This is the software. This is Lightburn. This is what actually runs the laser cutter. And to give you a little teaser on it, if I were to take and, for example, make a box and I choose black, okay, I can set the parameters of the black. So in this case, it's going to run at 40% power, and it's going to run at 18 millimeters per second. I'm going to do another box right here, okay. Now in this case, I'm going to choose a different color. In this case, I chose red. Red, in this case, I have selected fill. Okay? So whereas if the laser that cuts this one, it'll simply put a laser line down it. In this case, it'll raster back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and essentially burn the entire pattern all the way down, which is how I was able to do things like this gray area, or this dark brown area, in the cougar's face. Okay, that was rastered. This is a line. This is rastered. All right? So if we come back to this, I can also show you this, which is kind of cool. If I make another box inside this box of the same color, you can see that it excludes that area. All right? And let's say I want to add another one inside of this one. All right? Well, it's going to fill this one, exclude this one, fill this one, and then, of course, I can do that again. And I can continue on. As long as it's a sealed area, you should be able to raster it. But if it's not continuous, if I take this red and I draw a line, for example, and I come up and I come across and I come down, okay? Even if I get close, really close, all right, it's not going to fill it, all right? It has to be a completely closed system, and then it'll fill it in. All right? So enough of that. Let's jump to the software. One last look at the clock just for specs. So this is 85 millimeter radius, and the reason I'm doing 85 millimeter radius is that we have pieces of wood that are 30 centimeters by 30 centimeters. And if I draw let me just kind of draw that for you, what it actually is. If I come down here, let's see, let's just go ahead and create a rectangle, and that's going to be 300, 300. All right, so if I have a rectangle piece of wood which is 30 centimeters by 30 centimeters, and if I were to cut a line across it, all right, that means that the biggest circle I can put in here is about 170 millimeters, okay? So that's about the biggest I can put. Now, I could obviously use the whole sheet, but I'm hoping that we can get 2 clock faces out of every sheet. If you really want to make something bigger, talk to me. But right now I'm thinking 2 clock faces per sheet, and we should have plenty enough to make clocks for everybody in the class. But enough of that. Let's get started on our clock. Okay. So I am in Librecad, and it is a piece of software that allows me to draw two-dimensionally And I can do something special, which is kind of nice, is I can create layers, and I'll do that here in a moment, and I can choose colors, because remember, this software works on colors. So the color designates the behavior of the laser. So by working with colors, I can make some pretty complicated drawings and be able to do it, and then have the laser then interpret or act differently based on those colors. So for example, in this case on the clock, I had this area shaded in one, or these lines here outlining the cougar's face in one color, all right, and it etched out rather darkly. Then on these little highlights here, I chose another color, okay, and it etched out less darkly. And then of course in these areas here, I said, I went ahead and drew around it, but I said, no, leave these alone. So these ended up being the native wood color, okay? So again, color is everything when it comes to telling the laser what to do. But let's go back to this. These discs, these clock faces, are 85 millimeters in radius. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this. I'm going to choose a center point circle. And I look at my snaps. You'll notice that in this case, the snap is on this grid. So you'll notice everywhere I move, it kind of snaps to the dot. Okay? We're going to start this way. And I'm going to put my cursor about here. And I'm going to click it. And I'm not moving my mouse. I'm not a whatever. And I'm simply going to type in there 85, enter. Okay? And now I have created a circle that is 85 millimeters radius, or 170 millimeters in diameter. All right? So, let's start working on the numbers. Let me zoom in on this. We'll make this kind of full screen, like so. Okay. And to do the numbers, I'm actually going to create a new layer. I'm going to use this 0 layer and this white as the laser cut. I want to cut this out. So I'm going to add a laser. I'm going to add a layer that's going to tell it to just etch the numbers. So let's go with add it. Let's call it the number layer. And I think I'm going to make it magenta. Okay, there we go. So here we are. We're ready to draw numbers in there. All right. So let's start by making some kind of marker as to where to put the numbers. So to do that, remember this is 85 millimeters. And I think I want my numbers about here. Okay. And I probably want them kind of big. So I'm going to choose to make a 70 millimeter line that goes straight up. And then I'm going to build it right from that point. So to do that, there's a couple ways you could do it. I could just use a 2-point. But I can also do something like where I choose and make a vertical line. And I can tell whether or not I want it to be at the if I want it to, the point where I start is going to be the start and it goes up, or I can make it the end. I think I want it to start, and I want it to be 70 millimeters. So if I go down here and click it, boom, you can see that I now, by the way, I'm going to hit escape to get out of this. Just hit escape. I now have this one line at 70 millimeters. All right? So that's going to be where I'm going to put the 12 for the 12 o'clock. So now what I need is another 11 more lines that are going to designate the position of the other numbers. So I'm going to do that by selecting this number, and I'm going to come over here to my modify button. Come on. I need to move this over a little bit, I think. There we go. I'm going to modify it, and I'm going to do is I'm going to rotate. So the first thing it's asking for is where's the center of rotation. In fact, it says it right here, the rotation center. Well, we want it to center here in the middle of the clock. And then you just kind of, the next thing is asking, well, some sort of a reference point. In other words, where are you going to grab it from? Well, I can be anywhere, literally, because you're going to see we're going to ultimately use the graph. So I'm going to go ahead and just click it, and it doesn't even matter. Don't worry about spending any time on that. You just need to throw it someplace down, because what I want is this. Okay? So we are going to make multiple copies. How many? We need to make 11 more copies, because we already got one here for the 12 o'clock. And we want it to be 30 degrees, right? I mean, think about it. 180 degrees would be straight down here. 90 degrees would be here, which means that would be 30, 60, 90. Working our way around, we'd be having one line at every spot. So I got multiple copies, 11 at 30 degrees, hit OK, and boom. All right? So now you know exactly where the numbers are going to go. So let's put a number down. I'm going to do that by going to Tools. And I'm going to use, this is multi-line text. We just need a single line text. All right? And I'm going to put in the number 12. You can see I already played with it. I think about 18 is about right. Let's make it a little smaller just because we can. We'll make it 16. And then I want my number to be right on the center of this. So I'm going to choose the center here. So it's going to center. When I select it, it's going to put the center of the number on the center of the selection. So I'm going to say that. Say OK. Now, it wants to know where to put it. Let's go back down to our snaps. I don't think we want to snap to grid. Okay, we want to snap it right at the end of that line. So you're going to turn off this and turn on endpoints. And boom. There you go. You've just got your 12. Okay, I'm going to hit escape. Oh, okay, I need to get rid of that one. Okay, now to be quick, you can actually just right click your mouse and your last action is going to be here. So I'm going to do a text. All right, and I'm going to do an 11 and I'm going to say OK and put it there. All right, and I'm going to right click again, text. I'm going to do a 10. Say OK. I'm going to put it here. Right click to escape. Right click again to choose. So we're going to do a 9. Okay. All right. I'm going to pause this while I finish this dial. So you'll see me come back here in a second. Okay, so I went around, I right clicked it twice each time, changed the number, and placed it at the end of the rod. Now it's time to, you can leave it like this. Actually, some people like it this way. I want mine to be more like this, where they're perpendicular to the hands, so they rotate around, all right? So to do that, that means I need to change the angle of the letters. So I can simply select it like this. I'm going to go to rotate. Once again, it's kind of asking me for that center of rotation. I'm going to choose right here. You can grab, literally, I'm going to put snaps on, so I can just grab anything. Because again, all I really want to do is get to this display here. I'm not making multiple copies. I want to delete the original, okay? And I want it to go 30 degrees. Whoops. Boom. Okay? And I select this, okay? Repeat the process, rotate, center, click, click, and then I need to make this one 60 degrees. All right? And this, okay? Rotate, click, 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 and this one's going to be 90 degrees. Oops, what did I do? I did something wrong. Control Z. I'm going to select that. I'm going to rotate, click, 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 and we want it to be 90 degrees. Okay? You know, it's funny. I probably want to change these font, but I'm almost out of time. So let me clean this up, and I'll catch you in the next video.